Hi, I'm Oytunkal, an Unreal Authorized instructor. Today I will guide you through creating a festive New Year's Eve animation with Unreal Engine 5.5. Here is a sneak peek of what we will create by the end of this tutorial. Watch as our character pushes a button to start the confetti particles and reveal a celebratory message. Here are the learning outcomes for this content. First, we will use the motion matching database from the game animation sample project to bring realistic animations to our characters. Next, we'll learn how to set up a festive environment. This involves creating and configuring a new project with a festive town square using the Stylized Winter City Environment asset pack. We will understand the basics of sequencer timeline. We will explain and use tracks, keyframes, and sections to animate characters and objects effectively. We'll then move on to animating characters for a cinematic effect. This includes creating and applying animations using the motion matching database. Then we will add dynamic effects to our scene, such as integrating confetti using particle effects to create a magical atmosphere. We will focus on creating and animating cinematic camera movements to enhance the storytelling with dynamic shots. Finally, we will review and export the completed cinematic sequence, ensuring all elements are cohesive and polished. Let's start by opening the game animation sample project. This gives us a solid foundation with pre-configured animations and characters. You can familiarize yourself with the sample characters and animations available in the project. We will use these assets to animate our scene. You can identify the key assets and animations that we will be using for our festive New Year's Eve animation. Once you have your Epic Games Launcher open, you can come to the Library tab, and under Engine Versions, you will be seeing which engine you have installed already. In this case, I have 5.5.1. Here I see my projects, and underneath it, there is the Fab Library. Under Fab Library, I have already added many assets or packages. So if you like to open one of those assets, you just need to come to here and search. In our case, we will be using Game Animation Sample. So I have already made some tutorial projects with it, but I need to create a new project. So I click on Create Project. All I need to do is pick the folder where I'm going to work with this project and give this project a name. And create. This project has the size of 5.4 gigabytes, and it is creating this project now. And the project will be created. It will be listed under my project. So after the game animation sample project is opened, I will import this Stylized Winter City Environment asset into our project. As you can see, in this project, there is already a snowy town. After game animation sample project is open, we will then come to the Stylized Winter City Environment asset pack, download it, and open it by importing it in our newly created project. If you take a look at it, you will see that this asset pack already contains very well made Christmas town, in which you can also use all of these props to create your own buildings and environments. So these kind of modular sets are a good way to start with level design if you are interested. I strongly suggest you to go through all these assets in your Fab library. For the sake of this tutorial, I will not use the modular objects too much. I will only use some of these props, like the gift boxes, for our character to jump over. If you take a look at this town, it already has a very long street where our main character can run easily by jumping over all the obstacles. And then the final place will be this place where the character will try to jump over a box and then will try to press a button which will activate the Happy New Year message in our case. As you see, the New Year's Anime project is now created. All I need to do is click on it and the project is being opened. Now the game animation sample project is open and we will start by pressing play to see what this project's default level is already providing us. As you can see, there are certain places on the ground which will activate the related content. So let's start by running to the obstacle course 1 without losing ourselves too much in the project. As you can see, this project already contains certain objects, traversables. So when I try to make some movements with my character, like jumping from one place to another, the character tries to hold on to those ledges and then tries to make some jumps. As you can see, the character has certain different types of jumps, which makes it quite fun to walk around. As you can see, if I move around like this, the character is also making some interesting movements. So let's go to the obstacle 4. I will sprint with my character, and you can see that the character can climb very easily and then hold on to certain areas. I try to make also these sudden movements so that the characters can make some sudden turns. All right, now I go back to you can also click on README, which also gives you a detailed information about this project. You can come to View Controls. Controls are here. You can use these controls. There is not much interesting. If you have a gamepad that is connected to your computer and recognized by Unreal Engine, then you can also use it. You can also activate the game animation widget. Let's put it here. As you can see, in the game animation widget, there are certain adjustments that we can use. So in this part, there are certain characters that are already given to us. You can easily switch from one character to the next character. For the sake of these tutorials, and to be able to benefit from the capabilities of metahumans, I will be using the one male metahuman character that we see here. So I press play, and then I select the metahuman character. As you can see, changing the character is that easy. You might even select these kind of trios. And a comparative version. As you can see, changing the character from one to another is quite easy. So this is the character that I would like to use for my New Year's Eve because he looks like a modern human being that might be running around during a New Year's Eve. So let's test this theory. So he's sprinting, he's making some animations, running around the obstacles and making all kinds of different movements which are selected from the motion matching database. You could easily switch back to another character. Once you start running with your character, if you happen to find yourself in a position like this where you cannot change the character, the shortcut you can use is Shift F1. Once you do that, you can easily switch your character in your game world. There are already very colorful and interesting characters in your game world. Many of them have already cloth physics, like these male and female characters. You might be familiar with this character. She became famous when Unreal Engine 5 was first released, as you know already. So let's press Escape to stop the play mode. I will not get into too much detail of these systems here, but you can find these kind of adjustments that are available to you. For further information, I strongly suggest you to watch official Unreal Engine video tutorials from certain Unreal Engine festivals, or you can take a look at the documentation. But also, the community is providing a lot of good suggestions and feeding each other with new knowledge. When I press Control Space, you can see that we have certain folders. So under this folder, search for CBP. CBP gives us all these characters' blueprint classes. So if you click on our MetaHuman character, you can see that in the viewport, our character is adjusted in a good way with all the required camera additions, with all the things that we are familiar already from MetaHumans. If you take a look at the certain assets, like the skeleton mesh asset is a skeleton mesh for Unreal Engine Fortnite editor Mannequin. You can also take a look at all the details that these characters are already providing to us. If you will need to make any changes to these characters, I strongly suggest you to create a child of these characters first and then to make your changes without destructively making anything false. Next, we will import the Stylized Winter City Environment asset pack. This pack provides all the elements we need to create a festive town square. Once the assets are important, we'll begin placing key elements like the gift boxes as parkour obstacles. You can enhance the festive atmosphere by adding and positioning decorations like lanterns, lights, and other festive props from the package to create a lively and welcoming environment. Now it's time to go back to our asset library, namely the newly released Fab library, and to add the other required assets. The Winter City Environment is already under my library, so I can add it to my project. I select my project and I add to my project. Now, when I go back to my project, here you can see my content drawer. Under the Stylized Winter City folder, you will see that the newly added content. Then we will add posed humans to make this environment a little bit more vivid. We'll use the Posed Humans Winter Pack 1 to make the scene look more lively and populated. These characters won't have animations, but they will enhance the overall atmosphere. Import the Posed Humans Winter Pack 1 into the project. Place the static characters around the scene strategically to create the impression of a busy, festive environment. And you will have a beautiful scenery. Now, I would like to add the Winter Posed Humans Winter Pack. You can again come to here, add to project, select your project, which is our project. Since these are static meshes, if you see that your project does not appear here, that means that this asset is not really suitable for the latest version. But I believe that this can be overseen, for these are only just basic static meshes, so they won't be causing too much problems. So if you don't see your project because your version is not yet supported, namely in this case 5.5, you can click on Show All Projects and still select your version. As you can see, the final version that this package is adapted to is 5.4. So therefore, I will be selecting 5.4. So that means the 5.4 versions of these static meshes will be added to my newly created project. So I will add it to my project. As you can see, the assets are being now imported into our project. We will create a new game mode in the demo scene of the Winter Asset Pack to manage the gameplay logic for our scene. It is also suggested to select the demo scene map as the default map from your project settings. You can select the motion matching metahuman character as your pawn in the game mode. This allows us to use advanced animations for our character. Then you can continue with setting up the level with the environment and running pads. Ensure the character can navigate the scene smoothly. Alright friends, now we would like to bring our character with motion matching capabilities into this level. How do we do that? Since we have already started with a game animation sample project, under blueprints you will already see some of these assets that were prepared for this project. In addition to that, if you would go and search under content for the CBP assets, you will see that all these other characters that we have seen in the game animation sample project are again listed and already in our project. If you need to work in another completely different project, which does not have the game animation sample project as your base, you need to migrate all these assets and activate a bunch of plugins under plugins. Since our plugins for this project to work are already activated, I don't need to do that. But you can go through the plugins and see which ones are the active ones, like the chooser, for example, that you might see from this list. Some of these plugins are quite new and are already active for this game animation sample project. Okay, let's turn this in. Now, what do we need? So in the main content, or maybe under blueprints, I can create a new blueprint class as our game mode. So since it's a blueprint class, I will create it under blueprints. I right click,
click my blueprint class and we will select game mode base and we will call it game mode New Year's Anim 2025. If you see a star right next to it, that means that you need to save it. How do we save it? Control S. All right. Now, you are already in this project, but under world settings, you need to select this new game mode as your game mode. And what do you need to do? And as your default palm, you should select the one that you are going to use. In our case, we were working with this metahuman character, CDP. This guy, Callum, is our main character. So you can basically drag and drop him to this default one section. I will close my content browser again. I will save this map by clicking Ctrl S. The map is saved, and now I will press play. Voila. Our character starts in the air. Now I can run with him, jump, and you can see that these motion matching capabilities are already out there. And you see those kind of circular motions. You see that all of these are already selected from a database of many different animations. You can even jump backwards. So after adding all those obstacles, we will also be able to see what our character is capable of. I mean, he can make a lot of cool jumps, he can make a lot of flips in the air, etc., etc. So let's continue with setting up our obstacles for Kellen.
Our main tool is going to be the sequencer. Sequencer's timeline is the heart of your cinematic animations. Here, you will manage all your animations using tracks, keyframes, and shots. Tracks are the layers where you place your animations. Each track can represent different elements such as cameras, characters, or objects. Creating dynamic and engaging camera shots is crucial for storytelling. Sequencer allows you to add and animate cameras to capture the action from different angles. Applying and managing animations in Sequencer allows you to bring your characters to life. You can use pre-made animations or create your own. Take Recorder lets you capture in-game actions and movements, which is especially useful for recording character animations during gameplay. Keyframes mark specific points in time where changes occur. By setting keyframes, you can control animations over time. Control Rig is a powerful tool for creating and adjusting complex animations. It provides an intuitive interface for manipulating the rig of a character, making it easier to create realistic animations. We will set up obstacles in front of our character to showcase the motion matching capabilities. We will add objects like gift boxes as barriers that the character will need to navigate. To be able to use the game animation sample animations, we will use the level block traversable asset. After positioning the gift boxes from the Winter City asset pack, we will turn off their collisions and place level blocks in their positions and sizes. That way our character will understand where he can use the ledges of the obstacles to make his appropriate jump. Alternatively, you can create a child of the level block and change the mesh from within. But you will still need to make the mesh a little bit smaller than the level block, so that the character doesn't miss the ledges. Then we will enter play mode by clicking the play button in Unreal Engine. Then we will control the character to navigate through the obstacles as if you are playing a game. Ensure the character reaches the final button to trigger the confetti particles.
So let's start with this one, can basically bring it here and then press R to scale it. So we want to have 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 even. So they should have enough distances between them because we want our character to be able to move with the second animation after that one. So if they are going to be obstacles, if they are going to be too close to each other, that means the character will not have enough space to switch from one cool animation to another one. I'm running over them. And as you can see, with these type of assets, the character can only make basic jumps. Also, that means that he cannot hold on to the edges. He cannot make any special kind of flips or any kind of similar movements or things like that. So he just basically jumps over them. So although they have collisions. So how do we want to solve this issue? I quit. Now we open our quantity drawer. We will look for the level block. As you can see, there are 2 level blocks. One is traversable, the other one is not traversable. We are looking for traversable level block. So basically, what you can do is use this one and create copies of it, or create a child of this one. To make these things non-destructive, let's work with the child one and save it. All right, let's save all. I will bring this level block to here. I will bring this one for test purposes. As you can see, there are these ledges on every corner, every edge, and it's a 1 meter level box. So those edges are non-existent on these gift boxes, of course. That's why our character does not know how he can hold on to them, how he can pull himself upwards, or how he can make those cool jumps. Well, for the sake of our animation, we are looking for those cool jumps. Let's copy one more time. Control C, Control V, W. If you move around with the sizes of these objects like this, you'll see that Control C, Control V, one more. 1 meter is good for quite aesthetic jumps, but let's say still 1 meter high, but a little bit too wide. Let's make it this way. I'm going to put them for only test purposes and make a little bit more distance to this one. That way you can understand what's really happening. So I will move away this box to the side. And one more for the test purpose again. I will create Control C, Control V. I will bring this another block to here. Yet this time I'm going to increase the height and make it 2 meters. As you can see, it's not 2 meters, and we will then use the take recorder to capture the character's movements during play mode.
We will open the take recorder from the window menu and add the character as the source and click record. Navigate the character through the obstacles and stop the recording once the sequence is complete.
Recorder is under Window Cinematics. Here you can see it. Whenever you do that, you see automatically a sequencer is being working. Now we need a source for it, and that source is our player. All right, we'll start by pressing play, and then record. 3, 2, 1, go. Cool. Final jump. Yes.
To tweak the animation, you can open the recorded sequence in the sequencer. We will now use the control rig to tweak the animation for finer adjustments if it is needed. The MetaHuman character already has a control rig, so you can select it in the timeline and start animating. So you can use the control rig to adjust the character's movements when necessary. You can also add keyframes to refine the animation, especially for the final jump to press the button with hands, or for the cameras. You can also animate the face of the character from the controllers as an alternative to using Live Link for motion capture. You can fine-tune the animation to ensure it looks smooth and realistic. To create a magical winter atmosphere, we will focus on setting up the confetti effect. We will use a particle effect with Niagara Systems to simulate the confetti explosion. First, we have to create a Niagara system and open the confetti template in the content browser. We will then drag it into our scene and position it above the town square. You can adjust the parameters of this confetti effect to fit the environment. This includes setting the duration, color, and spread of the confetti particles to create an impressive display. You can either activate it from the sequencer, or you can create a blueprint to trigger the explosion of the confetti after the player collides with it. I have created two systems. One of them is a Niagara system. You can basically right-click and select Niagara system, and there you can select one of those templates. In our case, I have used the confetti one. Confetti is here. Once you open this Niagara system, which also contains an emitter and also confetti outburst, you can see that we can change some of the parameters. Like, for example, first thing that you should change is the material with the default sprite material, and then you can come to initial particle and select the color range. That also gives this colorful appearance. Then you save and compile. You can basically drag and drop a Niagara system within your environment. Another important issue that you can use is, do you want this confetti burst to happen infinitely in a loop style, or that it happens with a different type of numbers, like it can repeat itself by 3 times, etc., etc. So this is our Niagara system. I will close it. The blueprint confetti, in this case that you see here, is actually using the same Niagara system. Only thing that I did was to add a box, as you can see here, a box collider. And then under event crop, I have connected this event actor begin overlap with spawn system at location. And where is this actor? The actor is the self itself. So the location is where the actor is. So what do we understand with that? I close it and show it to you here. So our main purpose here was actually, as you can see, to turn this box into a collider box. So when our character comes in here, we want it to be activated by this collision. So let's take a look at it under VFX Blueprint. So I turn off this regular Niagara system, and the blueprint one works. You should check whether it works in your sequencer or not. Sometimes it might be a little bit problematic if your trigger is only happening from the blueprint side. So the take recorder take, which will come from here, might not activate it when in your sequencer every time. To avoid that, we would like to also try some other systems, like with keyframes, for example. Let's go back to our master sequence. And here you see all of my actors and also the confetti part. Here you can add under Niagara system the Niagara component and FX system, and there you can give this content some keyframes. That way you can deactivate and activate from here whether this confetti will work or not. Final scene and the message. So you can compile and review the final sequence, ensuring all elements such as animations and camera movements and effects are seamlessly integrated. You can add the celebratory message, position it at the end of the sequence to conclude the animation. The main character hurries to the button, triggers the confetti, and the celebratory message appears. As the confetti lights up the sky, our celebratory message, "Have an unreal year in 2025," appears in the air. This adds a cheerful ending to our animation. Alternatively, you could have used blueprint programming to trigger events with the push of the button or with a specific time step, maybe even in the sequencer. You can now preview the completed animation, making sure it conveys the intended festive atmosphere and the narrative. For the final message, I have used a 3D text asset. Here you can see that there is this text 3D actor. And this can be activated under plugins. Text. As you can see, text 3D. It still seems to be in beta, but it worked for our purposes. What did I do then? After I have created this content, I basically selected my font, the height, the placement, the type of the font, whether it is center aligned or left, right, etc. And then I have given those all materials gold looking. And then, as you can see, I have arranged some lights. These are only active in the sequencer. So we go to our main sequencer again. So let's bring it here. So if you go down, you will see that these first light is moving from left to right, and the other ones are getting activated from within the keyframes. As you can see, the intensity is now 40, and one frame before it is 0. So it's just basically turning it on and off. So the first movement is the light bulb moves from left to right, and the second one is the intensity from 0 to 40. That way, I have prepared the final message in my scene. And then the camera goes backwards. And that all happens with the keyframes, of course. With our animations and effects in place, it's time to set up and animate cinematic camera movements. You can add cameras to the scene and position them according to our shot plan. Using Sequencer, we will animate the camera's movement along the timeline. Select the camera, add keyframes at different points to set its positions, and create a path for the camera to follow. Smooth transitions between shots enhance the cinematic experience. We will use Sequencer to create transitions, if necessary, between different camera angles and positions. We can also add keyframes for camera positions and adjust the timeline to create smooth transitions. You can then implement the planned cinematography, including establishing shots, close-ups, tracking shots, and more to create a dynamic and engaging sequence. Here is the sequencer and the master sequence in it. In this master sequence, you can see all these different angles. Although I have worked on several other different close-up shots like this one, some of them did not work as I have intended. Therefore, I left them out of the video due to time constraints. Here you can see several different Cine cameras. These are not spawnable, but really existing inside my level. So if you go to my outliner, you can see that there is this master sequence cinematic and several different cameras for all these different angles. I named them in a way that they will remind me from which angle they are shooting and what kind of a movement they are doing. You could have also created some Cine cameras from here by clicking on here, and that would also be using the Cine camera cuts. If you like to add a new cut, you basically come here, press plus, and then you select the camera that you would like to see here. In additionally, these are the subsequences. The subsequences are actually the recordings that come from take recorder. So they are also complicated aspects. Once you click on them, you see there are some subsequences inside subsequences. So this is the blueprint recording. MetaHumans recording. And this is again the MetaHumans recording. So in relation to my needs, I have switched between the one sequence above the MetaHuman because I have used that camera right behind the actor that was automatically attached to the actor, to the player. And in here, I did not need any camera that was attached to the player, so I have used a separate camera as if it's a dolly shot. Additionally, as I have explained earlier, you can also use keyframe animation to activate Niagara System, confetti, and also some other actors if you want them to appear or not, like the text message. Here, the 3D text actor can be seen. That it will appear right after our character hits the button, and the text sliding light moves from left to right. That is also again happening in here. And also the other lights are going to be just activated. Namely, their intensity will switch from 0 to 40 in this case. All four. Unreal Engine cannot directly export video with audio, so we'll need to export them separately. First, we will export the video using the movie render queue. open the movie render queue from the window menu, choose your sequence, set the desired resolution, frame rate, and output folder, and render the video. For the sake of this tutorial, I will only use a basic setup. If you want to have a deeper understanding of the movie render queue, I suggest you to watch other tutorials where you can learn about the console variables and many other adjustments inside movie render queue. Remember, the higher the visual quality, the longer the render times, depending on your hardware. You can either export the audio separately or create your audio tracks inside your video editing tool after exporting your image sequences from Unreal. To export audio from Unreal, you can use the movie render queue again to save the recorded audio file as a WAV file. Finally, you can combine the video and audio files in any video editing software. To export our video and audio, we need to use the movie render queue. If you like to activate and open the movie render queue, you can click on this clapper icon, or you can find it under Windows Cinematics. Here, you can see how movie render queue interface looks like. So in this case, it didn't recognize the existing sequencer, so it got a little bit confused. But if you go to Content Drawer and find your master sequence, and if you will click render queue from here, it will automatically appear in this list. Here, you should click on Unsaved Config and select the variables and the settings that you are looking for from your export. First of all, when you are exporting from Unreal Engine, it is best to export it as an image sequence. But if you are looking into more professional results, you can have different types of images that have stronger qualities than JPEGs. PNGs, for example, have alpha channels. EXR is considered as a higher quality image format. And as you can see, you can also export your audio. You do not need any separate external tool to do that. To go into these details, I suggest you to take a look at the other tutorials, because in this case, due to time constraints, I would like to keep it as simple as possible, so the JPEG sequence and the deferred rendering come as the standard export setting. So under Unsaved Config, you can select also the previously saved configs if you like to, but all you need to do here is accept. Under Output, if you click on these three dots, you can find your folders. You can specify which folder you would like to export to, and that's all. In addition to that, the frames per second in your sequencer are going to be the ones that are going to be used in the exported files. Once you do that, your content will appear as an image sequence, and you can easily import images by just selecting the first one in any of your video software, and the image sequences are automatically recognized by the video editing software. When it comes to exporting audio, as I have shown you earlier, you can still go here, setting, WAV audio, and now you can also export WAV audio as a separate file, which I did for the footsteps sounds in this case. Let's recap what we have seen. We have covered a lot today. You have learned how to create and configure a new project, starting with the game animation sample project. And we have learned how to use the motion matching database for realistic animations. Then, importing the Stylized Winter City Environment asset pack. you have set up a festive town square animated characters. We also added dynamic effects like the confetti explosion with Niagara Systems, which can be triggered both with blueprint programming or from within the sequencer. And we used sequencer for cinematic shots. We also recorded movements with take recorder and tweaked the animation with control rig for the final button push. Finally, we exported audio and video separately using Movie Render Queue and combined them to create the final output. And of course, we have created and animated the cinematic camera movements. Thank you very much for watching and have an unreal year in 2025.